The Elder Scrolls Blades is something I haven't talked too much about on this channel. I talked a bit about it as we are hearing more of an upcoming release date and early access, but since it went live, I haven't made a video on it. I've been playing it periodically, but I've just been pretty busy in my own personal and school life lately, so I didn't have time to actually cover it and level up until now, as you can probably guess by this video. Because some of the recent updates to the Elder Scrolls Blades are 1, not getting a ton of coverage, but 2, are not necessarily good. It's not a good indication from Bethesda, and I think it reveals some issues they're having internally as far as updating their games because they quite closely parallel issues we're having with Fallout 76 updates. I mentioned that before the Elder Scrolls Blades came out, I was really curious to see what would happen with this game as it's the next release after the Fallout 76 controversy. You imagine they wanted this one to be a success, but as of right now, it seems like they're almost going down a similar path. Either way though, if you're not familiar with the Elder Scrolls Blades, it's a new mobile Elder Scrolls game, and something to remember while watching this video, especially as I draw some of those comparisons between Blades and Fallout 76. The game is still in early access. Bethesda has been pretty vocal about wanting to hear fan feedback, so even though there have been some negative changes, there definitely is hope for improvement in the future. And as with many free-to-play mobile games, it has a lot of microtransactions. That is the revenue model for this game. Although with this one, it definitely feels a bit more intrusive than typical. They use the tried and true don't wait model for microtransactions a lot of the time. So let's say you're building something in your town, upgrading a weapon, or trying to open a chest. All of those have wait times associated with them, or you could spend gems to skip the wait time and have it activate immediately. You could earn gems for free just by playing the game, doing quests, opening chests, or alternatively, you can earn gems by paying for them. And then you could also buy chests also through them. So pretty standard, if not a bit more intrusive than what we've seen in past games like Fallout Shelter, even other mobile games. This has definitely been a source of controversy, but fortunately Bethesda has been to some degree listening to fan feedback, posting updates on almost a weekly basis while Blades is in early access, which it presently is in early access. And it seems like there have been steady improvements up until one of their more recent patches. And it wasn't like this one was a minor step back, it probably could be described as a pretty big leap in the wrong direction. So on April 11th, an update was pushed for the game, as they have been doing almost every Thursday, and it brought a couple of much wanted changes. We found out that silver chests will now only take 1 hour to open or 12 gems. Previously, this was 3 hours, and if you don't play the Elder Scrolls Blades, that's kind of a big deal. While waiting for a chest to open, you can't open any other chests. So let's say you start the 3 hour or now 1 hour countdown on a silver chest, you can't open any of your wood chests or queue up other chests. So if you have 10 silver chests, it'll take you 10 hours in total to queue all of them up one after another and have them all opened, unless you want to pay money or gems. And chest opening is a real big component of this game. A lot of people are jokingly call it a chest simulator because it's how you get a good chunk of items. With some of the higher level chests, the timers get pretty up there, being over 6 hours, so reducing the silver chest opening time from 3 hours to 1 hour is a pretty welcome and nice addition. We also found out that wood and elder chests were added to job rewards. These are just repeatable tasks you have in the game. Again, more really awesome and welcome additions, and a few other changes that were mostly positive. The only real negative one was silver chests are no longer available in the Abyss. But considering you can now open them 3 times as fast, it was mostly seen as a positive update. A lot of people are really happy immediately following this going live. But then they started to actually play the game, and specifically play through a certain area known as the Abyss. If you're not familiar with the Elder Scrolls Blades, the Abyss is basically this endless dungeon. Well, not really, because if you get to the 100th level, it'll actually break. But the idea is you just go further and further into this until you die, and the farther you get better rewards, and you face harder enemies. And for a lot of players, especially those at the endgame, this was one of the most lucrative way to actually get some of the highest level gear and equipment. Unfortunately, to make a long story short, with this same update, Bethesda actually removed most of that high level gear and equipment from the Abyss mode and never included it in the patch notes. Specifically, they removed artifacts, which are basically these unique weapons typically from past Elder Scrolls games that were kind of legendary or special. But even further, the 2 top tiers of items, that being Daedric and Dragon items. The day before the patch, people reported getting these with relative ease when they actually cleared through this a couple of times, but following this patch, it was obvious that you didn't get them anymore. And this is where the controversy around this starts to begin. So 6 days later, after the patch went live, we actually got official confirmation, yes, those were removed. Which 6 days is kind of a long time to take for this. Granted, it was somewhat over the weekend, but there are a couple of ways you can look at this. If you actually look at the updated patch notes, including all of the changes that were omitted are negative. Like if those were included in the patch from day one, this would have been received as probably a overall negative patch. But since they were omitted, then it was received as an overall positive patch. Now, I would argue Bethesda's probably not that dumb. People obviously would figure this out pretty quickly and then it'd blow up in their face. But even further, something else worth mentioning that is pretty interesting, Bethesda doesn't actually update Blades in a traditional fashion. The updates are pushed from the app itself, not from the App Store. What this means is that the changelogs aren't regulated by either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And an argument has popped up, and this is very tinfoil hatty, that Bethesda is doing that so they could sneak in some of these changes. Again, that's very out there. I'm not sure if it's confirmed or denied, but it is interesting. But even further, if we look at this from the alternate perspective, that Bethesda just didn't realize they did this on accident, that still is reflective of a couple of things. First and foremost, those are pretty massive changes to the game, and the fact that it took 6 days to get officially reported probably means you need to do some changes with the way you report patch notes, because that's a problem. Even further, by removing these items from the Abyss, it makes it so The Elder Scrolls Blades basically has no endgame now. After you finish the main story, there's almost no point to continue playing the game. Since you can no longer get artifacts and tier 9 and 10 weapons from completing the Abyss, it becomes immensely difficult to actually get them by free means without actually paying money to get some of the rarest chests. So in effect, this change makes it so if you wanted to get one of these more rare items, it probably makes a lot more sense to just spend the money than grind out the ridiculous amount of hours it would take to get it for free in-game. Meanwhile, the Abyss offered a pretty nice middle ground. It wasn't exactly easy to find these, but you were significantly more likely to do so compared to now how you could do it. Although to be fair with this, again, it is an endgame change. If you're just in the middle of this game or even early on leveling up like I am, this isn't going to affect you in any dramatic fashion or really at all. You probably wouldn't have encountered these items anyway. But if you did just beat the story, or if you're about to, unless you want to spend hours upon hours grinding and building up your town just for a small chance at getting access to these items, there's literally no more point in playing. And I would say when you take this in context with the greater Bethesda as we've been seeing them as of late with Fallout 76, it's even more concerning. There were similar scenarios where with Fallout 76, several changes were brought to the game that were never included in the patch notes and were overtly negative. They were nerfs to in-game content. That did all happen a few months ago now. But even more recently, we hear about repair kits coming to Fallout 76. It was made pretty clear that the microtransactions for that game were supposed to remain cosmetic, and now repair kits, even if you don't think are pay to win, definitely violate the cosmetic rule that was supposedly established. And the last major decision for the game preceding both of these? Creation Club for Fallout 4 and Skyrim. I feel like looking at this overall, taking it all together, it really seems like Bethesda Game Studios is shifting more towards microtransaction models in their games. And I think with Blades, it's really aggressive. I actually played a lot of Fallout Shelter. I was a pretty big fan of that game. I thought it was a lot of fun. There were microtransactions and I even spent money on them, but it didn't feel like they shaped the gameplay. I didn't feel like I had to spend money on them. With Blades, that's certainly not the case. It's a lot more in your face. You're consistently reminded that, okay, I could either wait or spend some of my gems and then buy some more to not wait and actually experience the game more rapidly. Even further, some of these update mistakes are happening pretty often to just be mistakes. And even if they are truly just mistakes, it seems like that's even more reflective of internal problems that really need to be resolved. The two most recent Bethesda Game Studios games are both having a ton of issues focused around the updating component of that game. I'm not sure what the link is. I'm pretty sure they're being developed at different studios within Bethesda Game Studio, but it's pretty clear it's a recurrent problem and hopefully something that we see getting fixed. With both Fallout 76 and The Elder Scrolls Blades, the games have issues. Nobody's trying to shy away from that, but it's also pretty clear that the games have a lot of potential, I would say, especially with Blades as it stands right now. There's genuinely fun gameplay here, a lot of really cool and interesting content. With some tweaking, with actually lessening on the microtransaction model, I think this is a game I could be playing fairly regularly and enjoying. But as we get shadow nerfs like this, it makes me 1, not even want to play the game, but 2, not give me much to look forward to. This change in effect destroyed the endgame, and that's obviously not a good thing. I don't think Bethesda benefits from that, the players certainly don't benefit from that, and it just seems like there's a way more amenable middle ground for all of this. Now, I don't think Bethesda Game Studios is crashing and burning. I'm still really excited for their future releases, but now looking at Fallout 76 and looking at the Elder Scrolls Blades, it certainly feels like, to at least some degree, we're seeing some kind of shift in the company. And it makes me curious as to what kind of changes we might see in the formula when the eventual release of Starfield is upon us. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this one. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.